Vikstrom. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been basically doing business since I was about 8 years old when I went from door to door selling popcorn that I hand shucked. I've owned construction companies, I own a resort, multi-level marketing businesses, interior landscape company. I invented a waterproofing process. I was in a clothing recycling company, DoorDash sales, drive-through restaurant, all kinds of different businesses. And the reason why I say that is that I've started a lot of companies, sold companies. I've been in agriculture for quite a while, and basically been pretty lucky with businesses and startups and having friends that have supported me over the years. My companies today are in agriculture. They've been the ones that I found that I'm really passionate about, and that's why I've stuck with them. I want to show you the diversification that it takes to be in business, and as I said, this will be a series of videos. This one is going to be about getting your product and getting it into the United States and establishing yourself. Now, if you watched the video before, I told you need to be passionate. You're going to have to be passionate because everybody's going to doubt you. Your friends, your family, and probably even yourself. You'll doubt yourself. So being passionate, knowing the product you have is exciting, or it's something that people want. At a young age, I heard from Rudolf Steiner, and he, along with other scientists, said that every 7 years our bodies and minds change. So I wouldn't say that I necessarily got bored with things every 7 years, but I made changes. And not necessarily entirely in the whole business, but you will have to make changes, and a lot of times it takes that long to get your business established. My teak, when I started planting the teak, it was 7 years before we began thinning it and being able to use the smaller trees and export teak. And this table that I'm on here is a teak table. And I also have large teak flooring done also. But you have to change. You have to transition when you have your business from one facet of the company to the next. And so with the coconuts, it was about 7 years at the point where I was finally able to ramp up production and export coconuts. I do enjoy the hurdles and diversifying within a company. Originally, I never planned to get into coconut oil. I was looking to export whole coconuts, and this is just an example of doing your research ahead of time. I thought for sure I was going to be able to import coconuts right into the United States and had planned on that whole marketing process. So when it got to the 7th year, I was looking to all of a sudden start importing. We actually loaded a container, and guess what? You can't import coconuts into the United States. They had been, I wouldn't call a ban, but they had never been approved for import. So we're going through that, and pretty soon we'll be there. But I had to diversify. I moved into the oil, and I'm very glad I did. We've moved into chips and other coconut products. And so you may have to do the same. Do your research on your product. You may find out exactly how it is. It isn't the way it's going to have a good shelf life. I know within Belize, some people have found out that coconut water is a very difficult product unless it's pasteurized. So if you have a product you love, clothing line, maybe cookbook, books, some jelly, or a furniture line, chocolate bar, pita chips, whatever you feel that other people are going to need or are going to want, then those are things that you're going to be able to work with. Then you need to decide, are you going to just sell it locally, or are you going to expand it internationally? I'm going to discuss more of the situation of expanding and getting it into the United States, but the market's wide open too for Belize products. There's interest in England. There's interest in the other Caribbean islands. I actually have a request right now for Puerto Rico. I know Jamaica has had interest or has had Belizean products shipped there. Mexico is another one, and then neighboring Guatemala is another area. But I'm going to discuss mainly about our products in Belize coming to the United States. And first and foremost is coming up with a company name. I mean, first, of course, is the product, but then the company name is important too, because sometimes you need to spend some time thinking about it. And now, what the real point here is, the company name is not necessarily what your product name is. And really, with me, it's Belize Coconuts. And I originally made the mistake that my label said Belize Coconut Oil. And that really wasn't the way it should have been. It should have been Belize Coconuts Coconut Oil. So we've changed that. Same with Belize chips and all those kind of things. So you're developing a brand first. That brand has to be what you are looking to develop. That name of your company should be the brand. So I know many people make this mistake that they've got a product and bang, here it is. You're going to want my guava chips and that's the end of it, or my, clothing line. But there's really a brand that has to be developed. And as a Belize brand, and you can see it in many small companies here in Belize, they develop that Belizean name first. What is it? Is it organic? Is it pure? Is it all natural? Those are the things you want to do. So you're not going to go sell guava jelly. It's going to be whatever that Belize company is first, why it's a good company, why it's going to be able to sell you the best jelly, the most purest, or whatever it may be. You want to see an image of your brand first. You want to be able to format that in your mind. What is my brand? A lot of times we can look at brands that are already worldwide, Heinz ketchup or something, but locally, Bowen and Bowen. It's a famous Belizean brand, probably the most famous Belizean brand there is. When I moved to Belize 25 years ago, it was a strong brand. It was a people's brand. And Barry Bowen and his family had developed a strong, clean, innovative brand. I mean, I remember the first time, their calendar, that was a very clean, professional looking. The advertising was professional looking. When they did the Lobster Fest, they were very professional in the way they went about things. It was their way. The vehicles, they were all very strong, clean brand. It was an innovative brand. I think the brand at that time was beginning to be built. They had Coca-Cola products underneath them, but remember back in the 90s, there were still recyclables, a lot of recyclables, and it wasn't always that professional as much as they tried. You had the green crates that were banged around. The bottles were sometimes in pretty bad shape and sometimes dirty. In my resort, we actually found a cigarette butt that had been in a bottle we opened up and poured out for a guest, which was very interesting. So as a resort, we began at that time around 97, 98. We were trying to get the red stripes, the Heinekens, all those, because the brown bottle and the stouts weren't as user-friendly. It didn't look as the presence, even though we knew the company was beginning to develop their brand. And then soon out came the premium bottle, and that was fantastic. When they did the premium, then things changed for us too, using them. And the thing was, they gave you the cooler, or they rented the cooler. You had to have only their product in it. But it was a strong, still, Bowen and Bowen. They had their rules, and they began to develop their own tourism brand. And we can see that today if we're at the airport, see all the brand, the Bowen brand, what they produce. And so now even their premium is in the United States, and it's a strong brand. Unlike at the same time, Pepsi was beginning to come in from Guatemala. And I don't know if you remember, Pepsi was always running out. It was in pretty bad shape. They never had enough crates and the bottles. It just didn't have a brand behind it. It was just Pepsi. And there was no company that was really representing it well. So it failed, and that was the end of it. But the name of your company is often your brand. And so it's developing that brand. Look at Grace Kennedy. It's a brand that people have known for years and years and years. And if you look at, Grace, I think it might come to your mind. I can see their little logo, but it's a generic brand to me. it doesn't really stand out, even their advertising or whatever it may be. But we know behind that brand, maybe, and that's what they're trying to let us know, that it's a very good brand, it's stable, it's very reasonable, and overall it's a good product. But it has a little bit different look than maybe a Del Monte, which has a nicer looking can, and a lot of their posters and things are a little bit different. And it's a little bit more expensive, and I think we understand that because the brand that they've developed. Okay, moving on, we got the brand. Now let's register that brand name. Now in Belize, you can go and file that with a registrar in Belmopan. It's in the Garden City Hotel building in Belmopan. Not hard to find. All you got to do is go in with a valid Social Security card, $25, the application, and you can get that form right on their website, fill it out, print it out, and bring it in. And it's pretty easy. If you want, there are people that do it for very reasonable too for you. Attorneys and other people will go file that for you. Now, if you want to take the next step and file that corporation, and if you feel you're going to grow, you're going to do 20, 50,000, 75,000 is really that mark too. Then I recommend that you get a corporation, and the easiest way to do that is hiring an attorney. And it seems like we all know some attorney in Belize. So there's people that specialize in it, and it's not a really big deal to get that done. It's different again. I'm talking about products not being sold in Belize, but maybe both. But if you're in the city limits, then you need trade license. You're going to collect sales tax and deal with the other restrictions for each area. But I'm going to show you how to do the product in the U.S. So getting back to your brand, now you got your product. You want to get into the United States. And to know what you have and to know what that product is and how to deal with it and how to package it in the States, I'm going to discuss Baja, your facility, registering with Baja, and letting them look at your farm, facility, however you're going to do it. This is like the key to start out in Belize. If it's an agricultural product, and that's what I'm primarily talking about right now, is that you want to get Baja involved. Even if it's lumber and things made with it, Baja still is the one that's going to give you that phytosanitary certificate that you have to export it. So if it's jellies, whatever it may be, Baja's going to get involved. If it's chips, anything related to food, and they have it seems to be like a really good reputation in the United States. If it's been approved by Baja in Belize and you've got that certificate and you're shipping it, I've shipped quite a bit to the United States, and only once have I run into something, and that was really because something else in the container wasn't really supposed to be there, plant material that was not stamped. So do that right away. It's not a big deal when you're thinking about if you're doing it in your kitchen or whatever you're making, your shop. Call Baja or stop by. They're on the Western Highway in Kyle, right before Running W. And just say, hey, can you come see what I'm doing and what recommendations you might have? Now, we did that right away, and they came out and they told us we needed to screen in the building. We had a concrete building in which we produced the oil, and they said you need to screen it in, and we did it, and that was great, being able to have them basically look over. Now, for the U.S. side, before you venture into the process, go to the Food and Drug Administration website, read over current good manufacturing practice, hazard analysis, and risk preventive control for human food. And I have the link underneath here that you can connect under the FDA and review those rules. Look over it. They're not that difficult, but it's good to know what you're talking about. And then the next step, which is really one of the most important steps, is go to access.fda.gov. And again, there's a link on the bottom of the series here. Create an account. Do it right away. As soon as you're done with this, or just stop, go in and figure that out. Set up your account. There's a lot you can learn there. There's no cost or anything. And you're registering your facility. And again, this helps you appreciate what you're doing and the scope of where you're growing. Are you going to package it in Belize? Well, then go ahead and register that facility. Are you going to do bulk and then ship it to the United States to have it packaged in the smaller packages? Then register wherever you think you may be doing that in the United States. Then go ahead, get those things registered. There's a few other things that you can sign up for that are free. They're things that help with your broker, and take a look at it, review that, look at the application. And again, depending on how much volume you're going to be doing, will determine what kind of inspections they'll do. And again, it's volume. Now, after you register your facility, it may take 6 months before you get a phone call from the FDA or a notice from the FDA, and they'll determine, are you big enough for them to really get involved with? And if you're under $500,000, they're not going to get involved. They're going to turn it over and allow the state to approve your site. And you never know with the state, but if you're up and you keep things clean and you know basically what you need to do, then that's the way you'll product. And again, it's product to product. So you'll register those things. It's all free to be able to do that. If you have multiple locations, just put them all in there. It'll make it easier. APHIS, FDA, USDA, Customs, they're all by the book. That's why if you have the knowledge ahead of time and read about it and you know what's going on, it doesn't change. There's really nothing negative about them. It's all logistics. Everything is in writing. There's nobody's opinion. There's no egos involved with them. The only thing might be, if I would say negative, would be their time schedule. And that's just because they are clearing hundreds of containers. And if the paperwork wasn't done right, or what you put in there wasn't exactly what was on your invoice, well, then you'll have your problems. But there's no greasing the balls or any of that kind of stuff that we may run into as stuff comes into Belize sometimes. But I let my broker handle it all. I have an excellent broker. At the bottom here, I put his name, but there's a lot of brokers that bring stuff in for you from Belize, that work with Belize every day. I use Hyde Shipping, as I've mentioned many times. It's Caribbean shipping office in Belize. It's Hyde on this side. They take care of everything for me. Hyde's excellent. They notify me. I go in. I'm, basically someone they're aware of bugging them. Okay, you registered your business. Now let's see what your broker might ask for. And that is, first of all, probably a DUNS number. And a Dun & Bradstreet number is something that basically registers your company as a business. It's an identity with the business. It does run through the government, but there also is a company that deals with it, Dun & Bradstreet. And you can register that in Belize or both. I have registered a DUNS number on both sides. If you look at it, it tells you the size of your company, how much money, if you've done none, how many employees, location, all those kind of things. You don't have to have it to import in the U.S. But when you get into larger stores, they may have you fill out some paperwork, and they may ask you what your DUNS number is. It's just and sometimes it has to do with your credit rating, but that really still is nothing. It just means that you've registered your company as a company, and it's recognized on that. And you can go to Dun & Bradstreet, look up companies. There's many companies, Belizean companies that are on there. Bowen & Bowen's on there, and other larger companies that have DUNS numbers. And it's not that hard. One thing I will tell you when you do that, don't go to DUNS website. Look up the federal. You're going to see one that says the federal government, and then that's where you'll register your Belize address. Don't go to Dun & Bradstreet. It's a commercial company. They're looking to sell you services. But if you go to DUNS and you see federal government or excuse me, whatever, something associated with the government, GOV at the end of it, that's where you want to go in, and then you'll be able to find Belize on there and do all the information. It's very easy. Okay, DUNS number is good to have. Next one is what is called an EIN number, which is an employer identification number. Now, you're probably not employing anybody, but you still need this EIN number. Now, this is truly a government number, and it's something that never expires. You don't renew it. It doesn't track you per se. What it does is it helps other business entities know that you're registered with the government. So if that grocery store chain you want to get into, first thing they're going to do is ask you for your EIN number. Everywhere, EIN number. Your bank, you want to come here and open up a checking account, you can do it as a foreigner, but they're going to ask you for that EIN number. Really easy. Go to irs.gov, or you can Google EIN number application. Again, only go to the government website. Don't go to all these other companies that want $250. You don't need to spend any money. It's free. You go on, that page says, are you ready to do it? Boom, you're able to do it right online. Step by step, who are you, why you need it. Now, most likely, and my recommendation is, since you're not going to have employees right away, is put in that as for banking. You open a company, you want to use it for banking, because the next thing you want to do is have a checking account here with your company, and that's really the best way to go. You'll answer a bunch of questions, super easy, as a farm, is it, is it seasonal, when do you think you'll hire employees, and, if you're not, just put 0, and again, going back to you need it because you started a new company and you're going to be able to have it to open a bank account. When you get to the you can even do sole proprietorship. So even if you haven't opened a corporation on this end, you can still, just as your person, be able to do it. And they will, right there at the end of it, there'll be a download for a PDF. Don't lose it. Download it to that computer, send it over to your phone if you store things in your phone. Print it, put it in a file, print 5 of them, because that number, you can't retrieve it basically. Over 30 years, I've never figured out really how to retrieve that back again. But you will need it. It will keep coming up and coming up, and then if you go to fill in something and it doesn't, you've gotten a new one, which it's easy to get another one, but if it doesn't jive with an old banking one, then you've got problems. All right, we registered with the FDA, registered yourself in Belize, registered your packaging, you got your DUNS, you got your EIN number. Now, let's look at what you got for product. If you plan on going into basically any store that scans your item, even if it's Amazon, Etsy, eBay, you name it, you have to have a UPC. And there's many names for them, but it's a barcode. And where you only go to GS1. They're the ones that make it international. They are the ones. Now you can buy second UPCs. People turn them in because they haven't used them. Maybe down the road if you've got a bunch of items, but at GS1, I believe it's $75, you will get 10 UPCs. And expect to take about a day to look at all the videos, figure out how it works, download them, save it. Keep that, go back to GS1 occasionally and look at how it all works. They have really informative videos. It's where you want to go. Don't go to anything that doesn't say GS1, because other companies are going to try to charge you for other things and try to sell you items and stuff. Stay with GS1. I've had them for years. They produce the barcode, and those barcodes are good barcodes, and they're international barcodes. If you're going to sell anything in a retail, you have to have it. I mean, it doesn't make a difference. I've seen even at flea markets, people that have a lot of products, they have that UPC. Now, you'll find out, you start with your own UPC, EAN number, a lot of them. Amazon's going to have their own, but they want your first from GS1. Walmart, same thing. They're going to want that GSN, and then they're going to assign their own on top of that. And again, this is all that I'm looking at. You're going to be putting this into regular stores. Even Amazon, same thing. You'll need to have that. It's a 12 numeric digits. They're assigned to your trade name. So you're going to put in your trade name, you're going to get 10 UPCs, and you can get up to 1,000. You just pay more money for them, and it jumps incrementally. So honestly, after I used my 10 and I had a few others that I was just trying out the product, I bought some other ones for like $5 a piece. But they're not registered with my company. That's the situation. They're just a barcode. So if you were in some thrift shop, whatever, and you had that UPC, that way they can go up to the register. And that's what they do. As soon as you walk into a grocery store, they say, yes, I'm going to take your product. They take one of them, they shoot the scanner to it, and it'll show on the computer nothing there. They'll type in, your business name, they'll type in the product, and they'll put in the price. That now is situated. But if they pop it in, it goes to GS1. It's going to say what your company is. It is going to be pre-registered already as a company if it's GS1. What happens is when you buy the secondary one, sometimes some other old names associated to that. They'll still use it and they'll overwrite it, but it's just not as professional. So that's just my thought on it. But GS1, again, go straight to their website. Don't let anybody else get involved with it. So you'll need your EIN number to set up the company in the US, and you'll need it with your broker. So it's almost like before you do your first order, or having an EIN number with Hyde and everybody, it helps. Again, you are talking about if you're selling in the United States, you're going to need a checking account. And, of course, foreigners can do it, and it's so much easier if, one, you have an EIN number, and number two, you have a corporation in the state that you're opening a checking account. The first thing that they're going to do when you walk into a bank after taking your identification, and you're opening up not a personal, you're opening a business account, they're going to take your EIN number, and hopefully you have it printed with you on that sheet from the government. And the second is they're going to look and see what your corporation is. So I've been in many states, and my corporations, it can be in other states. It doesn't have to be the state you're in, but you got a corporation, and they're going to look it up right then. They're going to open up your bowling business, excuse me, and they're going to see it, and that's it. So opening up your corporation. Now you can use Rocket Lawyer, you can use LegalZoom, but it's really not that hard to open a business. Florida, easy. North Carolina, I mean, many states are really pretty easy. You don't even need, 3 officers and directors, all that, as it used to be. Years ago, you had to have, a president, vice president, and a treasurer. They've even gotten rid of that now. So you can go to Vegas online and get registered there, and they have these guys that have thousands of companies listed with their name on them. So if you want to be totally anonymous, you can do that. But it's very simple. When you register a company, if you were to go to the state's website, say you have family in New York, and this is the thing that why you may use a Rocket Lawyer or LegalZoom is if you don't have anybody that lives here, nobody with an address, because you have to have a resident of that state to open the company. Now, again, you can hire someone to do that, and it's very cheap. Like if you go to Vegas, you pop up, I want to register a company, you're going to see all these people who will do it for you. They use their name, their address, everything. And that's great. And I think a couple $100 a year for that. Washington, D.C., there's a bunch of them there. Delaware is a huge one because there's no taxes, property taxes. Florida has no income taxes for people, so it really doesn't make any sense. If you're doing it for a business, you're still pay tax for a business, but you find where you want to go. But if you don't, have a family address, someone that you can use, then you may have to hire one of these companies. Or the next step is that you can also look up mailboxes. And for many years, I had a mailbox in Florida, and I lived in North Carolina because I wanted to register because I knew at one point I'd be importing into Florida anyways, and it was just easier to have the company set up here. So you can go on, look for mailboxes. There's private entities that they will list your address, for your home. You can use their home as their address, and it's not. I think it's like $75 a year. So Now you will know you need an address. When you go on to the state website, again, look just for the Secretary of State. Unless you want these other companies to go and charge you to open them up. LegalZoom's probably the cheapest. Rocket Lawyer's cheap. These other guys, they can really scam you on how much they want, extra things, address, extra, all that. But you can do it yourself. Just take some time, go onto the website. You've got your EIN number. That's number one thing. The name of your product. It doesn't even have to be that company. You can sell, under Belize coconut oil, I can sell that under the JFK Enterprises. So it doesn't make a difference. Whatever you want to name that corporation, it doesn't have to be the name of your brand or your company. You go on, you register, you pay the fee. It has to have an address that is a local address, somebody that you know in that state, or you hire, or you get one of those addresses, like I said, that you can hire. So you're going to have that address, pay the fee, and you become registered. At that point, you're again going to be able to download an access. You're going to set up an account, whatever state that is, on the secretary. They're going to have an account. You're going to set it up, free for all that. Then within a few days, you're going to have a certificate. I'd print it, even though the banks today, they take 2 seconds. They will do a company search, bang, they already know it's there. And that's that. So it's easy to open up a checking account when you do those things in order. The EIN number, being able to have an address, family member, whatever. And again, you don't have to put anybody as president in many states. All you have to do is have a representative. But you usually put yourself on as a CEO, president, manager, whatever you may want to do, especially if you plan to expand on that. The other thing that you really will want to register, and that's registering is by incorporating it. If you want to take that brand farther, if you want to patent it one day, trademark it, you have to have that company registered. I mean, and that's really part of a registration. If you go and register in the state, that name, no one else can use it. It's registered, but it's not patented. And that's the difference. So when you register your company, you keep it active, and it's fun. You can go to Florida and look at all the Belize companies sitting there that are registered. Nobody by law can take that name and use it. It'll be fought in courts if it's not used. If it's expired and they didn't keep it up, well, then they can use it. But that's kind of a nice thing to do fairly soon on. If you got a brand you think is going to take off, and you're going to be in, a clothing line, it's going to be in all the Gaps or whatever it may be, you will want to register that company now, so you say that you use that name first. Down the road, you can spend some time getting a trademark, and that's like $300 to start that process if you do it yourself. Not easy. I've been in the middle of it for a while now. I know someone that spent 5 years trying to get a very simple thing trademarked. So sometimes it takes time, but when you register your company to the state, that's the beginning of you being able to show it's registered. And then when you do submit it to the patent company, United States, again, goes direct to their website. All 5 million attorneys want to do that for you, but you can do it yourself. So you can, again, choose, where you want to set that company up and where the mailbox is going to be, and get that registered fairly soon as you're producing a product and before you begin to bring it to the United States. Just for a second, almost every grocery store or store is going to ask for your insurance certificate. And it's not that scary. I'm going to put the link on the bottom where I get my insurance. It's a product insurance, and they're all going to want, those product insurance. It's about $300 a year, so it's cheap. It gives me $1 million protection, and they're going to want it. I keep it printed when I go store to store. Sometimes they ask me, I need this. Yeah, here it is, and I produce everything for them. I have it all printed out. But this company's good. It's mostly food, but there are others that are even cheaper. But it's this one's a food liability insurance program is the name of the company. One small thing you want to look at too is possibly having a phone number. A lot of people put their phone number on the packaging, others put websites. You're gonna need some proof of contact, which in another video I'm going to get into the labeling. You have to have an address, website for them to reach, address or phone number. And you can get phone numbers, and it needs to be a U.S. number. So you can go online, you can get numbers cheap. You can get companies $5 a month that you have as toll-free number. If I've had it for 20 years, those forwarding numbers. So the person calls in, leaves a message, comes to me as a text and tells me what it is. But I would definitely, if you do it, you can also, it doesn't need to be an 800 number. Don't pay the extra. People don't believe in 800 numbers anymore. Everybody dials it free. So just get it. What I did is I got an area code to where the business was registered. So I was in Miami, it's 305. So, and that's just something that you can do. Mr. 305. I think that wraps everything I want to discuss with you. I recommend, if you're uncomfortable with registering your business in Belize or the U.S., get an attorney and get them online. It's very reasonable. LegalZoom is fantastic. They've been around forever. EIN number, GS1, FDA, DUNS. Do those yourself, and just remember, go to their website. If it doesn't say GS1 on the website, get off, go to the next one. If it doesn't say federal government, IRS.gov for the EN number, get off that. FDA, if it doesn't say the FDA.gov, get off those websites. Everybody's trying to sell you something, and those are things that you don't need. I don't believe you need it for registering a company either, but if you choose to do that. I think that again sums it up. You don't want to be paying the kind of money these companies want for, like, registering a company is $400. I mean, you can do that in a matter of minutes yourself. So the next video I'm going to get into will be on the label and some of the things that you have to appease the grocery store and the government with your label. And will also involve getting it into stores through brokers and all. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Todd Vikstrom. I'm with Belize Coconuts, Belize Imports, office at BelizeCoconuts.com. Thank you.